Well, tonight, this is our first night back. Welcome to the half hour to health. Now, what's interesting, these are called True Health Tuesdays. Now, tonight we're going to be talking about stress. We're also going to take off on a little tangent. Now I found something that shocked me. Okay, and I know it's going to shock you as well. This is absolutely something that I learned Monday that's going to change the world as we know it. This is really similar to seeing alien life. But what we're going to talk about is stress. And basically, I mean, you might have heard that stress is bad, stress is good, stress causes diseases. Let's go over actually what it is. First off, I want you to feel confident, okay? Because right now, everybody here actually started off, and everybody here actually won a race. Mm-hmm. You were the fastest sperm.
All right.
Yeah! Okay, so you got quality. But I want you to understand, you might think that it's modern medicine now that we're advanced, and we're not. In science, we're actually still in the flat earth world. See, this is a miracle. We don't know actually what happens when that sperm hits the egg. There's a magical change in there. We don't even know how it happens. And if you look at this, we're talking within, how it hits the egg. It splits into 2 cells, it splits into 4 cells, it splits into 8 cells, and it keeps doing this cell division. Well, what's interesting, by day 16, you're starting to see heart function, you're starting to see everything. But what I want you to do, this is called a primitive streak here. Now, what that is when the cells go, 2 cells to 4 cells to 8 to 16, this folds over. Now, doesn't that look like a spinal cord?
Yeah.
Do you know why? Because it is. It is. It's actually called a primitive streak. But what's wild is all the organs grow off of this, okay, kind of like fruit on a tree. So I want you to understand that everything is controlled and coordinated by this nervous system. And this is how we start off. Now, we still don't have the science behind it, but the nervous system, within 7 hours of conception, that nervous system is formed. Now, and we're talking, the heart within 24 days, the eyes form within 36 days of that sperm hitting the egg. Now, if you ask anyone how it works, we don't know. We know that there's certain stem cells that are present here and even present in your own body. And these stem cells can migrate over and they change. They can change into a kidney cell or they can change to a liver cell. And we don't know how it works, but we know it does. So when you look at this, and we're talking about stress, but I want to give you a basis of anatomy and physiology, because since I taught anatomy and physiology, and I look at humans, we find solutions for health by going back to how you're built. Okay, does that make sense? So all the nervous system first forms, the organs literally grow off of it like fruit off of a tree. Now let's say you had an apple here and you tied off the branch. Would the apple be healthy or not healthy? Not healthy, exactly, and that's the same thing. So what I'm doing from a neurologic perspective, if I see an organ not working right, we look for that pinched nerve. But also, all of these organ systems, they have to function in harmony at a certain time. Now there's 2 parts of a nervous system called an automatic nervous system. Okay? It's also called autonomics. Now how many people have eaten an apple in the last week? That was a pretty safe bet, wasn't it? Okay, it's wintertime, there's not a lot of fresh fruit, apples are there. Okay, well, did you have to think about breaking that apple into protein, fats, and carbohydrates? Did you chew it and you had to think, wait a second, it's almost in the stomach. Did you have to kind of work it out, or did it just kind of happen automatically? And it happens automatically for a couple of reasons, and I want you to really own this. There's 2 parts of the nervous system. One part, fight or flight, it keeps you alive. The other part, rest and digest. Okay. Now, when you're resting and digesting, you're taking that apple and you're breaking it down into the protein, the fats, and the carbohydrates. You're using the malic acid in there. You're actually building your body out of that. That requires energy. Now, it also requires energy to be under stress. What's interesting, when one system, the fight or flight system, is up, the rest and digest system's down. Now we call the fight or flight a sympathetic system. We call the rest and digest parasympathetic. So when one's up, the other's down. And you can actually see it on here. You can see the different functions. Rest and digest is, if that's up, the fight or flight's down. And so what this means is, When you're under stress, the rest, digest, and repair, or how your body repairs itself, is not working right. Okay, does that make sense? Oh! Gosh, that scared me. I'm sorry, was I the only one scared? Okay. Now, the reason we're looking at this, okay, and I wanted you to understand, did I just initiate a response? Yes or yes? Okay, good. So what we did is we caused a fear, a fight or flight system. Now your body, we're talking about the nervous system, remember? When fear is up, or the fight or flight is up, what happens to the rest digest system? It's down, exactly. Now, physical, chemical, or emotional stress, your body doesn't know the difference. Now, whether you're emotionally upset that I just yelled at everybody, so it's okay. Don't worry, you came into the perfect time. Yelling at people, it scares you, okay? And so, it worked. That's. But physical, chemical, and emotional stress, your body starts responding like you're being chased by a tiger. So what do you think happens to heart rate? Goes up. It has to go up 100% of the time. But also, you're being chased by a tiger. This is that fight or flight system. So your liver is actually going to dump glucose into the blood. It's going to break the glycogen down to glucose. So under stress, your body's going to have more energy in the blood. Okay, and also, might you be injured being chased by a tiger? Yes or yes? Yeah, so what's going to happen is LDL cholesterol, which is actually cholesterol used for tissue repair, is going to also be increased in production. And you're going to learn in a couple of minutes that, you know how the good cholesterol and bad cholesterol, have you heard of that? You've heard that? Okay, good. There's no such thing. Okay, there's appropriate cholesterol or appropriate cholesterol. Okay, you've been fed a couple of lines of BS to think that cholesterol is bad because it's absolute vital. It has a function. Now remember, when the fight or flight system is up, the rest and digest is down. Now, has anyone in here ever had a cold? Okay, good. Did you feel great? Did you have tons of energy? Did you just want to go running around? No, you're kind of wiped out. Do you know why? Because in science terms, the immune system is actually metabolically expensive. It requires a tremendous amount of energy to produce the white cells and build antibodies. So that means when the fight or flight system is up, your immune system's also depressed. So when we look at this, chronic stress will lead to a natural, normal physiologic response of high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol. That's normal for chronic stress. And it also leads to decreased blood supply to the gut, which means you can't metabolize nutrients. If your body can't break down nutrients, guess what it does? Stores it. Yeah, so we're talking chronic weight gain, you can't lose weight. Okay, but also chronic indigestion and immune system. So when you look at this, you start looking at chronic stress, it's fantastic. Because I want you to be aware that it starts to rename diseases. But right now, and I know you might think it's 2012, but this is really the dark ages in medicine. See, they're coming up with categorizing certain neurologic conditions and physiologic conditions, and they're naming diseases. And it's not true. What does blood pressure weigh? What's high blood pressure? What's like a normal blood pressure?
120 over 80.
120 over 80 in this country. What's it in Europe?
140 over 90.
No. It's actually in Europe. They really don't lower it unless it's above 180. And then they're doing a thing called pulse pressure where they do between 40 and 60. This means the high number, it should be about 40 to 60 between the low number, and that's pulse pressure. So in Europe, if you had 180 or 170 over, say, 140, that would be considered normal.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
It's normal.
Oh, I know. It's crazy Europeans, and they have less cancer rates and heart disease than we do. But of course, if you were in India, okay, they're concerned about low blood pressure. See, when you look at blood, it carries oxygen, it eliminates waste products. It's actually a vital fluid. In fact, I like blood. Okay, So what factor do you want to decrease the immune system function of blood? Do you want to decrease the oxygen carrying? Do you want to decrease the nutrients? No, none of that stuff makes sense. So when you look at this, diabetes type 2, chronic stress the body's dumping in, or it's going to be poisoning of the system. When you look at heart disease, depression, cancer, kidney, none of these actually exist. They're all the body adapting to chronic stress. Now, this is the earth-shattering stuff. This is the stuff that I just found out. Now, if I was to say, what's a placebo? Okay.
Nothing.
Well, kind of nothing, kind of like a sugar pill, kind of like, and if you asked me before Monday, I would have said the same thing. Okay. After Monday, I was totally wrong. Because I found out, see, the way studies are supposed to be done, and this is all studies, all medical studies are supposed to be done when you have a drug or therapy. Let's say this drug or therapy is for cholesterol or diabetes or Viagra. Okay, you come up with something that you can patent. And you divide a group up into thirds. 1/3 actually gets the drug. Another third gets a placebo. Now, my thinking in the old days was that a placebo was an inert substance that didn't really have a physiologic effect in the body. Okay? And a third group we didn't do anything to, we just called them the control group. Okay? And then you give them the drug, you find the effects, and you follow them for a period of time. Okay, now this is called the double-blind study because the person that had the drug or placebo, they mixed it up, they gave it to a doctor that didn't know which one was which, and they're giving it to groups of people that didn't know what they're getting. Okay, so double blind. Okay, and this was the gold standard, I thought. Okay, now about 2009, I noticed that in the flu shot studies, they actually used mercury in the flu shot, placebo. And I'm going, wait a second, in my mind the placebo was an inert substance, and you're going to put the highest neurotoxin inside of the flu shot for the placebo study? I thought that they made a mistake. Okay, so I actually called them up and they said, no, it's an active placebo. And I thought, huh? That's kind of like round square. What? Oh, gravity goes this way now, not this way. Okay, it didn't make sense. Well, what they came up with is now, and this is over the last 10 years, they're using active placebos. I know, I've never heard that term before. Now this gal is one of the greatest, most brilliant whistleblowers I've ever seen, Beatrice Golem. That's not her, okay. Okay, but she's actually brilliant. She's a professor out of San Diego State University. Now she checks research, and what she did, and this is brilliant. There's nothing actually physiologically inert, okay, and she talks way faster than I do with way more complex words, but what she's talking about here is that there's no regulations to determine placebos. See, the people that produce the drugs are actually producing the placebo. Okay? Now, I want you to hold this because this is earth-shattering. This means that every study that I've ever read is wrong. They can rig every study. They can rig it for depression. They can rig it for Neurontin. They can rig it for neurologic things. They can rig it for pain relievers. They can rig it for anything. And see, what they do is they formulate the placebo. So if we're testing Viagra, what do you want to put in the placebo? How about saltpeter? No, because it'll make the drug look better. See, it costs a lot of money to fund a drug study. And so now, since the placebos are not regulated, they're actually produced by the foxes watching the hen house. This is something I never even knew. And there's no federal regulation for it. This means every study that I've read. See, I read hundreds of studies. And what you do is, when you're a doctor, you look at the chart. You look at the chart and you see the positive effects or the effects of the drug, and then you look at the placebo. And then you compare them, and you think, well, if the placebo had nausea, vomiting, and dizziness, it was just the person's mind. If the placebo had an elevation in blood sugar, you just think, well, they just thought it. Not anymore. This turns the world completely upside down. This means there's a complete lack of ethics and morals. Now this one here, this was a comment on the article that she wrote, and it was published in the Annals of Internal Medicine. What's in placebo? Who knows? Analysis of randomized controlled trials. This is huge. Lord, if you could pass these out. I didn't make enough of these, but this was just a comment on this. And one of the things that I like is we now have no way of knowing which medicines are being beneficial to the patients being treated, which have no effects, and which actually have negative effects. With this report, the whole pharmaceutical research has lost its credibility. This is radically going to change the world, because now we know, and I want you to hold this, because all the research, when your doctor prescribes, let's say you have a major neurologic illness, let's say you have pain, let's say you have any type of condition you can imagine, and your doctor has looked at the research and prescribed this drug for you, he does not have the right information. Okay, it's not science-based. So when we look at this, 3 causes of stress: physical, chemical, and emotional. Your body doesn't know the difference. This means if you're chemically assaulted by a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory or high blood pressure medication or cholesterol medication, that is a chemical assault. Or if you're eating genetically modified food, a chemical assault. They actually have neurotoxins in here. You might say, well, how can you be assaulted by food? Did you know, okay, that in corn, okay, we're talking over 90% of today's corn, there's actually a modification of the gene. They turn the pollen into a neurotoxin. Let me explain that in English. Neuro means nerve, toxin means poison. So they actually turn the pollen into a neurotoxin. Now this is in corn flakes, it's in corn syrup, it's in virtually every corn product. So now this is tremendous. So if you're not eating 100% organic, you're taking in neurotoxins. And guess what? In my practice, we see over a couple hundred people a day. We're seeing multiple major neurologic damage. We're seeing a massive rise in Parkinson's and MS and in crazy neurologic conditions that were never here 10 years ago. So when we look at this, when we talk about chemical stress, we're talking about toxins that have been given to you through ignorance, and you're consuming through ignorance. Okay, so if it comes in a package, don't eat it. Physical stress, this comes from trauma. And let me tell you, do you know what you're doing right now?
Resting.
You're sitting. No, you're sitting. Okay. Now, if I was to say, I hurt my back golfing, you'd say, well, yeah, you're bending, turning, twisting. That's got to be a lot of strain on the back. And you'd be right. Golfing increases the pressure down here about 8 times normal. However, what you're doing now is increasing the pressure on the disc 5 times normal. But you don't notice it, do you? I know. So when you start looking at this physical stress, this could be anything. I mean, birth is physical stress, particularly if you're born in a hospital. And then psychological stress. So this means if you're upset because somebody is yelling at you, like I just did, you have the exact same response. And then you look at this. I mean, this obviously was our old governor. You work with her. Now what happens, and this is vital when you understand this, you can see that body posture of her rounding over the shoulders, right? Yes or yes? You see that? Okay, good. Is that good or bad? Okay, but why? Why does it happen? What I want you to understand is when you look at a normal body has beautiful curves from the side. Now, the nerves, this is the front part, this is the back part, the nerves actually come out of the back. So now, let's say that she doesn't have good nutrition. These discs are full of living cells. They're going to get smaller. Okay, does that make sense? So that means this hard bone is going to come down on that hard bone, and that's going to start to pinch the nerve. Let's say that she's over 40 and she doesn't produce enough acid. That means she can't get the nutrients in her body, so the disc is also going to get smaller. So what's going to happen if she's dehydrated, if she's toxic, or if she's not getting enough nutrients, her body needs to open up those holes in the back. So this body posture is actually opening up the nerve holes, keeping her alive. So this is not old age. Heck no. We've got people in their late 90s that are windsurfing, okay? This right here is chronic toxicity or deficiency. Okay, but now let's take it up a notch, because remember, this is the dark ages. Round your shoulders over just like her, just for a minute, okay? Leave them like this, round over. Now, while you're in this posture, take a deep breath. Reposition your shoulders. Take a deep breath. Much easier. Now get this. Okay, since her body is smart, it's going to increase the pressure to keep oxygen in the brain, right? So she's going to be diagnosed with a higher blood pressure than her. Now this goes into crazy world. What do? Do they say that every person up here needs the same blood pressure? That's insane. It's insane, because if you lower her blood pressure, you're actually going to end up with more trauma, more damage. So that is where this brilliant but complicated chart comes in. This is the key to solving stress. It's the key to reversing disease. This is what, since we cannot trust the medical scientific world because it's not based in science, now that we know placebos can be changed, this is radically different. You'll notice Health is on one side, death is on the other. You'll notice optimal health has no symptoms. Neither does death. Okay? So we're pretty much living in the world in between. So what you got to think of is everything you do is going to take you a step in one direction or the other. You eat a Twinkie, which way are you going? Death, okay? You eat an organic apple, which way are you going? You eat an apple with pesticides that are laced with estrogens. There you go. Okay, so see how complicated it gets? But so what we have to ask, see, people are asking the wrong question. Doctor, will this cholesterol drug lower my cholesterol? Absolutely. Do you know that all cholesterol drugs are showing a 43% increase in mortality? It means it kills you earlier. So what I want you to do, look at these. And pain, infection, high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol. These are not diseases. They're the body adapting to deficiency and toxicity. And I know this is, I'm explaining that the world is round to people that have been trained that it's a flat earth. Amen. Doctors don't understand this. Why? Because they've been lied to as well. That's why I wanted to explain that the placebo-controlled trials, the double-blind studies that doctors are basing their practice on, they're basing your care on, is false. It's absolutely false. So when we look at this, here's a typical patient, and I want to take you through a typical patient that has had physical stress, that has had chemical stress, and has had emotional stress. And the results of that, okay, because they're being treated incorrectly. 56-year-old guy comes in, 10 medications. Now, do you think that's a lot or not enough? This is about standard. I'm telling you right now, it's about standard. Okay, and what he did is, he came in with joint pain, came in with asthma, came in with indigestion, came in with high blood sugar, came in with constipation, cholesterol, sleep problems, muscle problems, depression, aspirin, okay, all of these drugs. You know what he was concerned with? Is his high blood pressure. And I said, dude, come here. He was concerned with high blood pressure, and I'm looking at the rest of this stuff. And I'm saying, now wait a second. Did you know that joint pain, okay, actually will cause blood pressure to raise? And then the drugs they give for joint pain is actually going to decrease the cartilage in the joint. So that's going to cause damage. Well, let's just go through this, okay? Because, you know, typically when someone's taking multiple prescriptions, I say, look, don't take two drugs together, separate them by at least an hour, drink a full glass of water in between. Right, because it'll decrease the toxicity. Most patients, they say, doc, there's not enough hours in the day. Okay, so when we look at this is the research that I'm aware of on blood pressure drugs. It says that if you take a blood pressure drug, this means you slow down the oxygen, slow down the tissue, you die of an early death from heart disease, cancer, or diabetes. Were you aware of this? I know, because remember, when we talked about blood pressure, it's different in Europe, different in India, different in America, so it's not science-based. When we talked about that gal with this deficiency, she requires higher blood pressure. So if you slow down the nutrients, you slow down the oxygen, you decrease the pH to a more acidic environment, cancer grows more rapidly. Now, is our population the healthiest the world's ever seen, or is 5 out of 6 Americans dying of heart disease or cancer? 5 out of 6. Now, neither one of those are genetic. I know you've been lied to. I know you've been told that cancer is genetic. Okay. Cancer affected 3% of the population 100 years ago. Now it affects 50%. Genes don't change in 50 years. Okay, that's just foolishness. When you look at this thing, and this is out of the Journal of the American Medical Association, turns out higher blood pressure, they had lower death rates. No, that's it. But let's have more enthusiasm. Oh, wow! I had no idea. Yeah, okay, that's better, okay, because it's true. It doesn't make sense, you know, because remember, the doctors are writing prescriptions on studies that are false. They're absolutely false. It's foolishness. This one here, Tylenol, and all this is ibuprofen, Motrin, everything. All the drugs they give destroy joint cartilage. Oh, you have joint pain because you didn't have good nutrition, or you're dehydrated, or you don't use it correctly? Okay, well, here's a drug. It's going to destroy the cartilage, but you'll be more comfortable. I'm sorry, that's truth in advertising. Now, if we were to also say, okay, that drug will cause high blood pressure. I know, wait a second. So you get a pain reliever, okay, causes congestive heart failure. Now here's a study, and I love this study. 80,000 people involved in this study. And they followed them. They followed them. These are women from 31 to 50 years old. They followed them for 2 years. They had no high blood pressure, and they found out if they took a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, there's a Motrin or an ibuprofen, 20 a month, 22 a month. So it's like one every other day, a little bit more than that. Okay, that's not a lot. Does that seem like a lot? 86%. That's a lot for me because I don't have to take that stuff. You know, and you got to figure, I don't want people uncomfortable, but I don't want them poisoning. So now here, you're talking 86% had higher blood pressure in just 2 years. Then when you look at this, inflammation is how the body repairs itself. So if you're taking an anti-inflammatory, you're stopping the body's repair process. Does that make sense, or does that sound illogical and foolish?
That makes sense logical.
Good. It weakens the immune system and journal infectious disease. Now that's tough because they put this in children's cold medicine. Does that sound foolish too? Okay, good, because I mean, I'm looking at science and I'm looking at stupid, and this is not effective, particularly when there's things out there. Now, Dave actually had asthma, which is part of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Turns out acetaminophen actually is linked to that. So that means that Tylenol, that Advil, that Motrin, okay, may also be linked to chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or asthma or breathing problems. But asthma is dangerous. 5,000 people a year die from it, right? Mm-hmm. Except 4,000 of those 5,000 die from the drugs used to treat it. So remember, I'm going back. We cannot trust the science because the placebos are being altered. The doctors are going against false information. Okay, now if I was to tell you we got a 100% success rate curing childhood asthma, would that be amazing? And kids get it. I say, look, buddy, you know, you've got this pressure on the nervous system. If I take it off, your lungs will work better. You can live life with drugs or live life without. Which do you prefer? I've never heard a kid say, gee, doc, you know, I'm liking the drugs. Okay, you know, they always want to get off of them. This one, when you break down nutrients, okay, you need acid in your stomach. If you can't break it down, you're going to be calcium deficient and iron deficient. This means antacids will cause calcium deficiency and iron deficiency. You need calcium for appropriate nerve function. So you're talking muscle spasms, irregular heartbeat, cognitive or mental declines. So this means if you have that chronic sympathetic state decreases acid, you get the same symptoms. If you take the little purple pill or Tums or Rolaids or any antacid, you have the same effect. So this is foolishness. See, anybody that has a chronic condition, you don't need less acid, you need more. You need to be able to break it down, so you have to pre-digest your food, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. Aspirin a day for a healthy heart. Have you heard this? It stops enzymatic activity. It's never been shown to help with heart disease. It's absolutely foolishness. It's the leading cause of kidney disease. When I was a kid, I don't remember seeing a dialysis machine or a dialysis center on every corner. I mean, I drive to San Pedro, that's a half hour away, I pass 4 of them. It's ridiculous. I live a mile away, I pass 4 pharmacies. Is that the sign of a healthy society? No, I've got to tell you, in 20 years, I'm going to drive a mile, I'm going to pass 4 farmers markets. Okay. So this is the truth. This is the absolute truth. Physical, chemical, emotional stress. I'm going to show you how to solve it. But anything you do that builds your body up will help you. Anything that you do that breaks your body down will cause an early death and decline. All medications slow or stop a metabolic process. Your body's a sea of metabolic processes. So does this mean that the Tums, the antacid, the Rolaids, the blood pressure, the beta blocker, these are all the drugs I'm just showing you. Every one has damage. Now, I'm not saying you don't need them. If your body is exhibiting certain symptoms, you may require that medication in order to survive short term. But if you're taking steroids, okay, that is going to weaken your immune system and increase your risk of cancer. I would much rather have your adrenal glands, which produce a natural steroid, to work correctly. Would that make more sense? Makes more sense to me. Okay, and science backs it up. Now this, Dave, and you can see this is his x-ray. Obviously the guy's hurting. Okay, within 30 days his blood pressure was normal. Within 90 days there he is. This is reversal of arthritis and he's drug-free. No. That's it. Wow. Okay, reversal of arthritis is cool. Why? Because his body, even though his mind is 56 years old, everyone in here, your joints are about a year and a half old. Everyone in here, your skin's about 28 days old. Everyone in here, it doesn't matter if your memories are 40, 50, 60, or 70 years old. Your body is constantly regenerating. And so it doesn't matter if chronic disease is there. So chemical stress. Food products, don't get it. Medications, find out why you're taking it, eliminate it. How many people drink enough water? And this is 50% of your body weight in water a day. A day. So I got to drink at least 125 ounces of water a day. Thank goodness. I know, it's a lot. That way you keep healthy. You know, I like healthy better than the alternative. Toxicities, and stop poisoning yourself. That makes sense. This is food. In the old days, people would sit around and you would pray before the food. And you did it for two reasons. One, because God gave it to you. This is actually a gift from the sun and earth. Okay, fantastic. But also, anything you eat is going to become you. So if you honor that, okay, and honor that life force, it's actually going to build a healthier body. Does that make sense? The problem is, if you're eating Walmart food or Kmart food, you're going to get a Kmart body. This is why, when I'm putting this up, by gosh, this is organic. Okay, this is 80% raw, and if you have digestive issues, you have to juice it. Why? Because juicing pre-digests it. You have to blend it. You have to break it down. Okay, you want to save the enzymes. So when I talk about living food, this is how disease is reversed. When you look at Gerson therapy, you look at every therapy to reverse chronic diseases, it starts with living food. Earthing. This is brilliant. Now this is a quote from Stephen Sinatra, brilliant cardiologist. See, it turns out, now this isn't any hippie crazy stuff, there's actually an electronegative charge on the earth. If we have skin on earth contact, it has a detoxing effect or an antioxidant effect on the body. Within 20 minutes, you have the same effect as if you're taking fish oils. Okay, you actually see blood vessels separate. So now, is skin on earth contact vital? Absolutely. And I love his quote, no pill on earth can do what Mother Earth does. Why? Because it detoxes your system. Do you know how many people I've had with diabetes? I say, look, get barefoot, get out there. And you know what they say? My doctor told me to never walk barefoot because I can't really feel my feet and they don't want me to get infected. And I said, look, do you want to get better? It takes about 30 days to recover from type 2 diabetes.
Wow.
Okay. Wait, did I just say it takes about 30 days to recover from type 2 diabetes? Well, I did read the book. There's a book called The Cure for Diabetes by Dr. Gabriel Cousens. If you got type 2 diabetes, let's read it. And what's interesting is when we talk about diabetes in a few weeks, you're going to find out, you know how type 2 diabetes, they give drugs? Okay, for that, you know, they give glucophage or metformin or, you know, some other type of, it turns out that if you take those drugs, you die early. You know, it lowers blood glucose, insulin levels remain high, and the insulin is what kills you. Okay, so there's actually a 43% increase in death if you take the blood sugar drugs. I'd rather just cure it. So when you look at this, exercise better than drugs. And plus two, under stress, physical, chemical, emotional stress, you're building up acid, your body's breaking down. And I want to show you a trick. This is a trick that you can do to decrease stress. Sit up nice and straight. This is going to be huge. This is going to be huge. I don't think you've ever seen this before. Take a deep breath in. Blow it out. Isn't that a trip? Did you see that? Did you see the little carbon dioxide go out? I just thought it was so neat because what carbon dioxide is an acid. So you just all switched your system from acid-based to alkaline. And you did it just by breathing. Does this mean disease can be reversed by just breathing? Yes, it can. Prayer and meditation. Is this vital? Absolutely it's vital. This actually means the body can regrow its cells, and you do this by getting a positive mental state. What mental state is the rest, digest, and repair? It's this. Every study I've ever seen shows that there's an increased cell production, an increased immune system response with daily meditation. It doesn't matter which method you pray. Okay? It doesn't. Okay? Just as you're recognizing that there's a power greater than you. Direct sunlight. It's tough with us now. This is deep winter. You actually have to wear a sweater when you go outside. But you're not going to get enough radiation exposure between October and March in our latitude. Okay, Canada, it's worse. Mexico, it's better. So you have to supplement with vitamin D3, but as soon as you can, you get out there. And you'll see that she's staring at the sun with her eyes closed. That cleans the pineal gland. The pineal gland is one of the controlling glands. This is something that you have to do between 11 and 1 o'clock every day, if you can, for between 3 to 10 minutes. It's vital to clean the glands. Affirmations, absolutely vital. Absolutely vital. We cover this. Daily affirmations change the brain. You change the brain, you change the physiology. Does that make sense? Absolutely. These are two kids, Sean and Ryan, 6 and 10 years old. They had chronic asthma. Chronic asthma. So what were they given? Steroids. Did you know that they also had ear infections? So they were given a drug called ampicillin. Now, ampicillin actually causes breathing difficulties, and they had ear infections. Now, for 40 years, they passed out ampicillin what are they called? Antibiotics? Okay. What does that mean again? Anti means against, bio means life. Okay, good. So they have these drugs that actually are against life, and they feed a kid for an ear infection. Well, what they found out was for 40 years we've been doing this, and for 40 years we made a mistake because ear infections aren't infections anyway. They're ear effusions. So here these poor little kids were exposed to neurotoxins, developed breathing difficulties, and then took steroids. And this is considered state-of-the-art medical care. I want to get one of those sound makers that sound like a cricket. Okay, after I make it's like, it should be like earth-shattering. It's like we should stand up, we should storm with pitchforks, okay, the absolute citadels that make these kids do this. Within 2 weeks, they were drug-free. Within a month, they never took another drug. They're cured of asthma. This means they live the rest of their life with less cancer and no more asthma. I mean, does that make sense? It does to me. I mean, to get checked at our office, okay, is vital. Vital, you got to start off with getting your nervous system checked. Okay, normally it's around $275. This month it's only $20. Okay, it's vital. And this way you come in, you get a posture analysis, a consultation, a drug search, which I got to tell you is probably the most vital thing you could do. And then if we decide that you need x-rays, you get x-rays. You actually get a copy of them on digital, you get a report, and you even get an adjustment if I see nerve pressure. This is why we get patients from all around the world. Okay, so it's vital. It's vital. Does that make sense? Now, all of these are recorded. They're all on YouTube. We have over 300 YouTube videos. I was just flown out to Chicago to speak before about 600 doctors. I mean, this information has to get out. Okay, it has to get out. This is the revolution. Okay, it's time we throw the tea in the bay. Wait, no, they did that a couple hundred years ago. They started in one of my favorite countries. I like those guys. But next week, okay, we're going to be here. We're going to talk about brain health. You're actually going to see how Alzheimer's can be reversed. You're going to see how Parkinson's can be reversed. And by a simple, unpatentable product that happens to be natural. And it actually tastes good, too. I ate some last night. But next week, brain health. Thank you very much.